and immediately score 2 touchdowns. I mean, they were a punch-you-in-the-mouth defensive line and a punch-you-in-the-mouth run game that could beat you over the top every now and then. I mean, they were consistent in their wins and loss style with us. It's just kind of whatever. We might beat you with Tim Hightower running 100 yards this game, or we might beat you by Drew Brees throwing 5 touchdowns. We might beat you by getting 5 sacks in the game like we did against the Chicago Bears and Jay Cutler a couple years ago, and then not see a sack from the defensive line for another 2 games. I mean, stuff like that. You never know what you're going to get with New Orleans, and it's incredibly frustrating, but also incredibly satisfying when you win. I mean, it's just, if we could make that consistent, this would be a great team to watch every Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, and you go back to when they were playing, those good 3 years they had, 9, 10, and 11, they reeled off wins. They would reel off 7, 8, wins, in a row, and just, and even in 13. And, just get that confidence and roll, and they had that edge to do it. It's just, the last 3 years, it's just kind of been so inconsistent, change the defensive coordinator, just bringing in this player, overpaying that player. It's almost like he's trying to fix everything.
Yeah.
There's 100 holes in a dam, he's trying to put all his fingers in it. And it's hard, with the inconsistencies. And then you go there, and you make stupid mistakes, and I mean, like I said, we should win this game, but, there's always that but, we should win this game, but, the only way, the Saints can beat themselves, don't do that,
Well, guys, I think, to me, there's not a lot to talk about San Francisco. We either win or we don't. But I want to kind of get you guys' thoughts on, let's just be real. Don't overinflate or deflate it. Yes or no? Do you see the Saints playing January football?
No. I don't.
No, me neither.
All right. At least we're being honest about it. I mean, none of us are denying that there's a shot. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't the only one, because it feels like sometimes where you talk to people, Saints fans, and I do it like at the water cooler at work, Facebook, Twitter, everybody's convinced that we're going to make the playoffs and make a Super Bowl run. And I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying that I believe in this team is who we think they are, and the return of one, albeit a incredibly talented player in Bro, is not going to make enough difference. But, man, 2017, that's the year where I really see us having the shot, in terms of the dead money goes from like $40 million down to $7 million. I mean, there's a lot of money rolling over. We have a chance to actually sign a lot of players in free agency. Hopefully we'll still keep, a decent amount of draft picks and not do like Sean Payton likes to do and trade it down to 4 or 5, and just have a really solid team coming in that's deep and actually has health next year. I mean, heck, if we manage to run the table this year and do something crazy, I'm all the way forward. I'm not saying that we should tank or anything. I wanted to make sure I wasn't the only one looking at this and going, I realize that only like 2 of our opponents left have winning schedules. I realize all this. I know we got to play teams like Arizona, who is, the dumpster fire of the West right now, even though a couple years ago they were real strong. We still got to play Atlanta, who we've always had their number, stuff like that. We have Los Angeles at home. We have Detroit at home, the game that I'll be at. I mean, on paper, yeah, we can do it. We can do it, but I don't know. I mean, the whole NFC seems to really suck this year. They are the staple of mediocrity, and the AFC, man, there's 3 or 4 teams over there that look unstoppable. So, sure, there's a shot, but I still don't see us doing it.
I reserve the right to change my mind on this, because I think it depends on how the Saints finish, how they, the whole mantra was finish strong at one time. I don't foresee the Saints doing anything like a finish strong to where they run the table, they get hot late, kind of like as you were alluding to earlier with the Giants, how they got hot late and they really looked like a team that was, a dumpster fire of a team or inconsistent, and all of a sudden they caught fire and they steamrolled and they ran right through the playoffs to a Super Bowl. I don't see that happening for the Saints. I'm not going to pretend that it's going to happen. I don't even want to think about the remotely possible chance of it happening. But what I will see is this. This is our 2008, guys. And I know it's crazy for me to reference it that way, but it is. Saints had early success. If you're gonna study history, then you have to understand that history is bound to repeat itself at some point. This is is our 2008. So the Saints had early success in the idea of they had 2006, the real early success, followed by 7-9, 8-8. All of a sudden, 2009 comes, everything falls in the right place. Boom, they take off, and they ride a wave of momentum and an opportunistic defense to a Super Bowl. Well, let's reset that after Bounty Gate, because in anybody who's anybody will tell you, if they study the Saints, if they study football, they will know the Saints gave away a Super Bowl championship in 2011. Of course, everything gets washed away because of Bounty Gate. Now we start anew. Here's where we start off with our 2006 all over again. 2013 was the equivalent of the 2006 season, followed by 7-9, 7-9. Well, now we're going to look at possibly 8-8 season. That's how I've always felt the Saints were going to shake out. I never felt the 6-10, the 5-11 season was possible. Sean Payton has never not won at least 7 games. Not that 8-8 or 7-9 is much better than 6-10. That's just the way it rolls. But I think this is the 8-8 season. It's the season in which the young guys, get a chance to play, and then next year they're grown-ups. You take the pull-ups off and you put the big boy draws on. Not to mention that, but it seems as if all the greats are going out with one last hurrah in a Super Bowl. It just seems to be that way. I think next year could be the Saints' turn to kind of do it, to ride that wave, ride a young defense that's improved to the point to where it's going to mirror much like Minnesota and St. Louis, because they were a young defense that built through the draft and through young free agents, and all of a sudden one day they put it all together. Boom, here you go. I think that's what's going to happen. This is our 2008 season. They'll go 8-8. They'll finish on a wave of momentum, kind of building towards the next season. And next year, Drew Brees' final year under contract. Yes, I know he signed a 5-year extension. Forget what you heard. It's not that we all know that, but sometimes you got to say it for the masses. I think next year is their 2009 season. Next year will be the year in which the Saints can ride Drew Brees' final year. Although they won't bill it that way. We all know what it is. They'll ride that wave of emotion all the way to a Super Bowl. Yeah. If it happens that way. I love a good fairy tale every now and again. That's mine, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, I'm at the point. Prove it to me. I remember, sitting back at training camp and everybody's, talking about the defense, and when they're looking good, watching them, and all this stuff. And I wrote an article. Everything looks good now until September rolls around. You're keeping ahead, and that's what happened. So I'm not ready to say that they're Super Bowl contenders, next year or this year. Not yet. I got to see more this year to see truly, if they're buying in, and Brian said it earlier that they're more comfortable within the scheme on defense. If we keep seeing improvement as the season goes on, to where you're saying, okay, this is really something, but don't fall back. Take a step forward and 2 steps back as the season goes on. Yeah. So to me, I have to see more as it goes on this season to see if they build on, with the 3-1 last, to see. I just can't right now, not yet. I'm still skeptical on that.
Well, I think, and when I say it, I do it in terms of potential. Because we have, to me, the best receiving group we've ever had under Sean Payton in terms of depth and completeness, in terms of split end, flanker, slot, all together, the best. We've got a young, semi-young, stable running backs. I think Lasco has a lot of potential. Mark Ingram is not old. Tim Hightower got some tread on him, but so did Mike Bell in the 2009 season. So, decent stable of backs. Defensively, you've got the Cameron Jordan. You've got Sheldon Rankins, who hopefully we see something good out of him this year. Nick Fairley is by no means old. Tyler Davison is showing that he is a very productive, one-technique, run-stopping defensive lineman. You've got Bro. You've got Kenny Vaccaro. So there are pieces enough to build a team that can make the push. They're missing 4 or 5 players. It is possible to get that in a year, especially if you're developing from within your system. So one of those players I think we need is a number 2 corner, but maybe P.J. Williams is that guy. Maybe Ken Crawley or Sterling Moore elevates, or Dennis Allen is able to scheme to where they are that guy. So there's potential with the money coming up and the draft to fill those holes. And we've seen teams go from one year to where they were average to next year they managed to get deep in the playoffs, push for a Super Bowl. You don't have to always be New England Patriot dynasty type team. You can be the Green Bay Packers 1 year in, super successful, not really the same after that. You can, be that Baltimore Ravens 1 year in, not really successful after that. And I'm okay with that. I just want another Super Bowl. I don't need a dynasty. The Peyton Breeze era is a dynasty all its own. Let me just get one more Super Bowl during it, and I'm happy. And I think 2017 has the most potential to be that for us in quite some time. Now, in terms of it being Drew's last season, while I think that's also possible, I think that really depends on how 17 goes. If 17 turns into another 7-9, 8-8 season, and we have 4 of those in a row, I think that you could finally see Mickey Loomis maybe possibly shaking things up and just admitting things aren't going to get better. A lot depends on how next year rolls around, and we still got to get through the other half of the season this season to really see how that's going to go. So, we're really looking forward and hopefully looking through rose-colored glasses here, but I do see potential.
I say that simply because I do believe in the potential of what this team could be, but I also see what they're building to now, and I think it could be misleading in my comments about them potentially being a Super Bowl contender. Well, yeah, every team is going to think they're a Super Bowl contender coming up next year as well. They're going to make some off-season moves, and everybody's going to feel good about themselves. But I think the difference is with the Saints. It's kind of what we were alluding to earlier, which is, do I see them going on this magical run and then getting hot and all of a sudden popping off like 7 straight? I'm not going there. But what I will say is that when you look at the quarterbacks that the Saints have played throughout the first 6 to 7 weeks of the season, it's easy to understand with the young, struggling, injured defense why the Saints have lost those games. However, you look at those games, and it's like there's minus a few games. Of course, there's always the coulda, woulda, shouldas. We all know that. Thank you, Jim Mora. But I think it all comes down to the idea that you could definitely look at those games and say, you know what, the Saints may have lost those games, but they were in every single one of them with a chance to win. And they were playing against some of the more elite quarterbacks in the NFL. Well, you reverse that now, and you look at who they'll be playing coming up. Carson Palmer has regressed, and I always used to say Carson Palmer was never good. He just had a hot streak, and then he remembered who he was. And that's exactly what's happened to him right now. Carson Palmer remembers he was Carson Palmer, and he's playing like the guy that, Cincinnati couldn't wait to get rid of. That's who he is now. He's regressed tremendously. Could be age, could be injuries, could be the fact that he's just not as good as everybody thought he was. Yeah. Look at the fact that they're playing with Carson Palmer. They're possibly going to be playing against, whomever the Rams decide they want to put at quarterback, Case Keenum, Goff, or whoever else they want to throw out there. But you're playing potentially either bad or rookie quarterbacks. You've got Detroit coming up. Detroit is in shambles. They've never really been a team that can come into the dome and get a victory. And look, the Saints give one away. But you're basically playing a bunch of teams that you have the advantage every single time you step on the field when it comes to quarterbacks. Yes, I know with Drew Brees being one of the upper echelon QBs, you always have that. But it's different when the other guy can match you. Matt Ryan will never be better than Drew Brees, but he can match Drew Brees on any given Sunday. Russell Wilson will never be better than Brees, but he can match him. And the quarterbacks the Saints have played throughout the first 7 weeks of the season, barring Alex Smith, they have been, the game's best quarterbacks. Well, they won't have that these last 7 weeks of the season. They won't have that. So I think advantage Saints, if they can get on the roll and just get hot to where they believe they can be a better team, that sets up well for next year. And, hey, this season isn't over either. Playoffs, I don't think so. 8-8, yes, I do believe that. But you never know what could happen if the Saints decide that they want to remember how to play football.
Well, let me throw this out there. 2 things. One, 8-8 this year could win our division. Second, though, let me just go ahead and make every Saints fan listening mad. Maybe Patrick will back me up on this. We like to hit up the injury thing on the Saints defense, and I'm not saying it's not true. Obviously, it's true. You got about a dozen people on IR. But let me throw these names out there, and you tell me if you legitimately believe the players I'm about to name make a difference to the point where the Saints, out of the 4 games we've lost, we win 3 of those. To be the elite team that we were, say, in 09 and 11. Guys like Oban Guacham, P.J. Williams, Kyle Wilson, Sheldon Rankins, who is coming back, Jamarcus Sanford, Damian Swan, Haloi Kikaha, DJ Petway, Eric Harris. any of those guys I named, is there a single one of those that either of y'all think